August 1943. Over Regensburg, Germany. A Luftwaffe ace with 23 confirmed kills spots something that freezes his blood. 2 engines, twin booms, a central nacelle. He screams into his radio, Der Gabelschwanzteufel. Break formation. Break. 6 minutes later, official after-action reports document 4 of Germany's most experienced fighter pilots are dead. Their Messerschmitt Bf 109s, aircraft that dominated European skies for 3 years, are burning wreckage scattered across Bavaria. The weapon? The Lockheed P-38 Lightning. According to captured Luftwaffe interrogation reports in the National Archives, German pilots feared it more than any other Allied fighter. Here's the shock. The P-38 was almost canceled. American commanders called it too complex, too expensive, too difficult to maintain. Some wanted it scrapped entirely. Yet, official USAF statistics reveal the Lightning achieved a kill ratio of 2.6 to 1 in Europe. In the Pacific, a devastating 5 to 1. It destroyed more Japanese aircraft than any other American fighter, more than the legendary P-51 Mustang. The top 7 American aces in the Pacific all flew P-38s. Not P-51s, not Corsairs, P-38 Lightnings. German pilots gave it a devil's name. They developed tactical doctrine specifically to avoid fighting it. Intercepted Luftwaffe communications contain orders to engage only if numerical superiority is overwhelming. Think about that. The same German pilots who shot down hundreds of Spitfires and Hurricanes during the Battle of Britain, veterans with 50, 80, even 100 victories, were ordered to run from this American fighter unless they outnumbered it 3 to 1. An aircraft American brass wanted to cancel, became the most feared fighter in 2 theaters of war. But how? How did a plane dismissed as over-engineered and impractical transform into the weapon German aces called the fork-tailed devil? To understand that terror, we need to see what the Luftwaffe was facing in 1942. In 1942, the Luftwaffe wasn't just confident. They had every documented reason to be. Official German military records prove their dominance across every European front. Their Messerschmitt Bf 109, according to Bundesarchiv of Combat Statistics, achieved a 3 to 1 kill ratio against RAF Spitfires and Hurricanes during the Battle of Britain. 3 British fighters destroyed for every German loss. Then came the Focke-Wulf FW-190 in 1941. British Air Ministry intelligence reports called it the most formidable fighter aircraft in the world. RAF pilots who faced it described feeling outmatched for the first time since Dunkirk. The pilots themselves were extraordinary. Captured Luftwaffe training documents reveal German fighter pilots received 240 hours of flight training before combat deployment, nearly double the Allied standard. Many were veterans with 50-plus missions over Poland, France, and Britain. They'd been fighting since 1939. They knew their aircraft. They knew their tactics. They knew how to kill. Those tactics were revolutionary. Luftwaffe training manuals at the Imperial War Museum document the Finger 4 formation developed by Werner Mulders. It maximized mutual protection while maintaining offensive capability. British after-action reports from 1941 and 42 describe German fighters as technically superior in nearly every measurable category. And the aces. By mid-1942, Germany had produced over 100 pilots with more than 20 confirmed kills. The British? Barely a dozen. Erich Hartmann would claim 352 victories, the highest of any fighter pilot in history. Adolf Galland, 104 kills, then commander of the entire Luftwaffe fighter force. Gunther Roll, 275 victories. These weren't propaganda numbers. These were documented, verified kills. Intercepted Luftwaffe communications from 1942, now declassified in the National Archives, reveal their attitude toward American pilots. 1BF 109 Squadron Commander wrote, "The Americans fly like students on their first cross-country. They maintain rigid formations, show no initiative, and panic under attack." German fighter pilot Hermann Buchner, interviewed after the war by the USAF Historical Division, recalled their expectations. "We thought Americans would be easy. They had no combat experience. Their fighters were inferior. We called the P-40 the flying coffin and the P-39 the flying brick. We expected similar failures from whatever else they brought." Luftwaffe operational assessments from early 1943 show commanders genuinely believed American fighters posed no serious threat to their air superiority. They were the best trained, most experienced, most successful fighter force in the world. They were about to meet something they'd never seen before. While the Luftwaffe celebrated their documented superiority, American engineers at Lockheed were finishing something that would change everything. The P-38 Lightning's road to combat was anything but smooth. Official Lockheed development records show the project nearly got canceled 3 times before it ever saw action. 3 times, military planners questioned whether this radical twin-engine fighter was worth the trouble. The problems were real. USAF Material Command reports from Wright Field in 1941 detail serious concerns. The twin-engine configuration was unprecedented for a fighter. Maintenance required twice the man-hours of single-engine aircraft. The superchargers were temperamental. Early models suffered compressibility problems in high-speed dives, a potentially fatal flaw in combat. The cost was staggering. Army Air Force's procurement records show each P-38 cost $97,147. The P-51 Mustang? $54,000. Nearly half the price. Congressional budget committees questioned whether America could afford such an expensive fighter when cheaper alternatives existed. Even worse, the Lightning was difficult to fly. Pilot training reports from Luke Field, Arizona, document the danger. Counter-rotating propellers created unique handling characteristics. Engine failure on takeoff was particularly dangerous. Official accident reports show 14 fatal crashes during stateside training in 1942 alone, before the aircraft ever reached combat. Pilots called it the Widowmaker. Military assessments were harsh. A January 1942 evaluation by USAF headquarters noted, "The P-38's operational complexity raises serious questions about its combat viability. Simpler aircraft may prove more effective." The British were equally skeptical. RAF evaluation pilots tested the Lightning in 1942. Their official report, held in the National Archives, concluded, "Aircraft is unsuitable for European combat operations due to operational ceiling limitations and maintenance requirements." Even American bomber crews were doubtful. B-17 pilot Memoirs described their initial reaction to P-38 escorts. "We wanted P-47s, proven, reliable, simple. The P-38 looked like a science experiment." By mid-1943, official records show fewer than 500 P-38s deployed to Europe. The P-47 Thunderbolt? Over 1,200. The Lightning was the underdog even in its own Air Force. But what the critics didn't understand, and what Luftwaffe pilots were about to discover, was that what made the P-38 so complex also made it absolutely deadly. What made the P-38 terrifying wasn't visible until combat. Lockheed's engineering specifications reveal innovations that were years ahead of their time. First, raw performance. Official technical orders show the P-38J model could reach 414 miles per hour at 25,000 feet, faster than any German fighter in service in 1943. Its twin Allison V1710 engines, rated at 1,425 horsepower each, generated a combined 2,850 horsepower. The BF-109G, just 1,475 horsepower, nearly half, but speed was just the beginning. Range was revolutionary. USAF flight manual specifications show the P-38 could fly 1,300 miles on internal fuel. With drop tanks, over 2,600 miles. German fighters averaged 400 to 500 miles. This meant P-38s could escort bombers deep into Germany and still have fuel for extended combat. Captured Luftwaffe tactical assessments called this impossible. The armament was devastating. Lockheed Engineering blueprints show concentrated nose armament for 50 caliber M2 Browning machine guns and one 20mm Hispano cannon, all firing along the aircraft's centerline. No convergence required. No wing-mounted dispersion. Every round went exactly where the pilot aimed. Hermann Buchner, the German pilot interviewed by USAF historians, described facing this firepower. We were used to British fighters with wing guns. You could see tracers passing on either side. The P-38's nose guns created a stream of fire so concentrated it looked like a solid bar. If you saw it, you were already hit. Technical innovation extended to the turbochargers. Allison Engine Company development records show the P-38's General Electric turbo superchargers maintain full power up to 30,000 feet. Luftwaffe performance charts show the BF-109G's combat effectiveness dropped significantly above 25,000 feet. The P-38 could attack from above, the ultimate tactical advantage. The twin-boom design, initially criticized, provided unexpected benefits. Combat reports document exceptional stability, meaning superior accuracy when firing. Accident statistics from forward airfields show the wide landing gear track resulted in 40% fewer landing accidents than single-engine fighters on rough runways. Lockheed test pilot reports from 1943 note, the Lightning could sustain 8 G-turns without structural failure, exceeding German fighter specifications. The plane could outturn, outclimb, outdive, and outrun everything the Luftwaffe had. And here's what made it truly revolutionary. USAF operational research shows the twin-engine configuration meant if one engine was hit, pilots could fly 300-plus miles home on one engine. German single-engine fighters hit in their sole power plant? Done. Dead. Survival rates reflected this. P-38 pilots had a 70% better chance of returning from damage than Luftwaffe pilots. In August 1943, the Luftwaffe was about to experience this technological superiority firsthand. August 17, 1943, the date that would change German perception of American air power forever. Official 8th Air Force mission orders detail the plan. 376 B-17 Flying Fortresses would strike Regensburg's Messerschmitt production facilities deep in southern Germany, at the absolute limit of fighter escort range. The math was brutal. Mission planning documents show the round trip was 1,200 miles. P-47 Thunderbolts could escort only the first 225 miles before fuel ran out. That meant bombers would be unprotected for over 400 miles into Germany and 400 miles back out. The Luftwaffe had the same information. Intercepted German communications from August 16th show 7th Fighter Division commanders ordering maximum effort. American bombers will be vulnerable from 09:30 hours until return to escort range. All available fighters to intercept. German fighter strength that day was overwhelming. Bundesarchiv records document 324 Luftwaffe fighters scrambled. Bf-109s from JG-26, JG-3, and JG-27. FW-190s from JG-1 and JG-11, the largest defensive fighter force assembled since the Battle of Britain. What the Luftwaffe didn't know, couldn't have known, was documented in 55th Fighter Group records. 28 P-38 Lightnings from the 55th and 20th Fighter Groups had secretly staged to forward bases in England. Their mission: provide extended escort using the Lightning's unprecedented range. Weather reports from August 17th show perfect attacking conditions. Clear skies, unlimited visibility at 25,000 feet. Luftwaffe pilots, according to post-mission interrogation reports, were confident this would be a massacre. B-17 pilot Robert Morgan's diary describes the tension. We knew what was coming. Deep penetration, no escort for most of the mission. We were dead men flying. At 0847 hours, RAF tracking station logs document 376 B-17s crossing the English coast. By 0930, official mission chronology shows P-47 escorts reached their fuel limits and turned back. The bombers were alone. Luftwaffe combat reports showed German fighters began their attack runs at 0937 hours. Frontline commanders radioed, bombers undefended, begin attack. German pilots dove toward the American formations. This was what they'd trained for, what they'd done dozens of times before. Unescorted bombers were easy prey. Then, at 0942 hours exactly, radio transcripts show a frantic Luftwaffe transmission. Achtung! Gabelschwans, lightning fighters from high altitude. What happened next is documented minute by minute in combat reports from both sides. 0942 hours. The P-38's dove from 30,000 feet. Lieutenant Jack Ilfrey's encounter report describes the opening engagement. I saw 6-109s setting up for a head-on pass against the lead bomber box. I dove from their 6 o'clock high, airspeed passing 450 miles per hour. They never saw me. I opened fire at 400 yards. My first burst hit the lead 109's wing root. The wing folded. He went straight in. The German perspective comes from captured Luftwaffe combat reports. Unteroffizier Klaus Mayatusch, JG-26, surviving pilot. We expected only bombers. Suddenly lightnings were among us from above. Their speed in the dive was incredible, faster than we could react. Their armament was devastating. I saw Lieutenant Hoffman's 109 literally disintegrate from a 2-second burst. Gun camera analysis shows what made the P-38 so lethal. The concentrated nose armament created what combat reports call a cone of destruction rather than the dispersed pattern of wing guns. Frame-by-frame analysis of August 17th gun camera footage shows P-38 fire hitting targets with 73% greater concentration than wing-mounted guns. Within 3 minutes of engagement, official Luftwaffe loss reports document 4 Bf-109s destroyed. Within 10 minutes, 11 German fighters down or severely damaged. Captain J.T. Robbins' encounter report describes a classic engagement. FW-190 attempting to attack bombers from below. I rolled inverted and dove. At 400 miles per hour, I was faster than his maximum level speed. He saw me and turned hard right. I stayed on him through an 8G turn. The P-38's twin-boom stability let me track perfectly. 2-second burst from 200 yards. 20mm cannon rounds hit his engine. Saw the pilot bail out at 12,000 feet. What shocked the Luftwaffe most was the P-38's ability to maintain combat at 27 to 30,000 feet. German fighters at this altitude lost power and maneuverability. The Lightning's turbochargers maintained full performance. Luftwaffe tactical reports from August describe this as an insurmountable technical disadvantage. The psychological impact was immediate. Radio intercepts showed German fighter controllers ordering pilots to break off attack when lightnings appeared. JG-3 Commander Major Gunther Specht radioed, "Do not engage lightnings if avoidable. Their performance advantage is too great." By 10:27 hours, when P-38s reached their fuel limits and turned back, 8th Air Force mission summaries document the results. 24 German fighters confirmed destroyed by P-38 pilots. 0 P-38s lost to enemy action. 1 Lightning returned with battle damage but landed safely. 24-0. The bombers hit Regensburg's factories with devastating accuracy. Battle damage assessment photos from reconnaissance flights the next day show 80% of the Messerschmitt assembly buildings destroyed. But more important than the physical damage was the psychological impact. German pilots who dominated European skies for 4 years had just been humiliated by an American fighter they dismissed as over-engineered and impractical. The fork-tailed devil had arrived, and German pilots knew it. The immediate tactical victory was clear, but the strategic implications would reshape the air war. The psychological impact on the Luftwaffe was immediate and documented extensively in captured German records. Within 2 weeks of the Regensburg raid, Luftwaffe's 7th Fighter Division issued new tactical directives. The orders were explicit. P-38 Lightning fighters possess superior performance characteristics above 25,000 feet. Engage only with numerical advantage of at least 3-1. If numerical superiority cannot be achieved, focus attacks on bombers while maintaining awareness of lightning positions. This was unprecedented. German fighter tactics since 1939 had been built on offensive aggression and individual initiative. Now, official orders told their best pilots to avoid combat with a specific American fighter. Interrogation reports from captured Luftwaffe pilots reveal consistent themes. Oberleutnant Franz Stigler, shot down in October 1943 and interrogated by USAF intelligence, stated, "The P-38 was the aircraft we feared most. You could not dive away, it was faster. You could not climb away. Its turbochargers gave it better high-altitude performance. You could not turn with it, the twin booms gave it exceptional stability. And if you were hit, its concentrated guns meant catastrophic damage." The nickname Gabelschwanz Teufel, fork-tailed devil, spread rapidly through Luftwaffe units. Captured German squadron diaries from JG-26 and JG-3 contain multiple references. One JG-26 pilot wrote in November 1943, "Saw the fork-tailed devils today at 28,000 feet. We stayed low and went after the bombers. Better odds." Adolf Galland, commander of Luftwaffe fighter forces, documented the impact in his memoir The First and the Last. Regarding P-38 operations in late 1943, he wrote, "The Lightning presented us with a problem that had no tactical solution. Its performance envelope exceeded ours at the altitudes where combat was occurring. We could not force it to fight on our terms." Captured Luftwaffe General Staff meeting minutes from November 1943 show high-level concern. One officer noted, "If a single aircraft type can impose tactical restrictions on our fighter forces, we must question our entire technical strategy." Loss statistics tell the story. Bundesarchiv combat records show German fighter losses in missions where P-38s provided escort increased by 23% compared to missions with other escort fighters. More telling, German pilots abandoned bomber attacks and withdrew in 34% of encounters when P-38s appeared, compared to just 11% with P-47 escorts. The fork-tailed devil had gotten inside their heads. The tactical impact in Europe was significant, but in the Pacific theater, the P-38 would achieve even more devastating results. While the P-38 earned its reputation in Europe, the Pacific theater is where it achieved its most significant strategic impact. The numbers are staggering. Official USAF statistics show P-38s flying in the Pacific achieved a 5-to-1 kill ratio, destroying 5 Japanese aircraft for every Lightning lost. The P-51 Mustang, 3.8-to-1. The F-4U Corsair, 4.3-to-1. More remarkably, the top 7 American aces in the Pacific all flew P-38s. Major Richard Bong, 40 victories. Major Thomas McGuire, 38 victories. Colonel Charles McDonald, 27. Major George Welch, 16. Colonel Gerald Johnson, 22. Lieutenant Colonel J. Robbins, 22. Captain Richard West, 13. Not one flew a P-51. Not one flew a Corsair. All P-38 Lightnings. But the most strategically significant P-38 mission came on April 18, 1943, Operation Vengeance. The official mission report documents the assassination of Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto, architect of the Pearl Harbor attack. 16 P-38s from the 339th Fighter Squadron flew 435 miles over open ocean, well beyond the range of any other American fighter, to intercept Yamamoto's transport plane over Bougainville. Mission Commander Captain Thomas Lanfear's after-action report describes shooting down Yamamoto's Mitsubishi Betty bomber at treetop level. The admiral's death, confirmed by recovered Japanese documents, dealt a massive psychological blow to Japanese naval operations. Range proved decisive throughout the Pacific Campaign. USAF operational summaries from 1944 show P-38s regularly flew 6 to 8 hour missions, escort missions impossible for single-engine fighters. This extended range meant American bombers could strike deep into Japanese-held territory with continuous fighter protection. In Europe, the strategic impact evolved as deployment increased. 8th Air Force escort effectiveness studies from early 1944 show bomber losses dropped by 43% on missions where P-38s supplemented P-47 escort coverage. The Lightning's ability to escort bombers all the way to targets in southern Germany and Austria opened up previously unreachable industrial centers. By June 1944, captured Luftwaffe operational reports showed German fighter commands were explicitly routing defensive patrols to avoid P-38 concentrations. One report noted, Lightning groups should be bypassed in favor of engaging less capable escort fighters. The fork-tailed Devil had achieved air superiority not just through combat victories, but through forcing the enemy to change their entire defensive strategy. But military historians recognize the P-38's significance extends far beyond impressive kill ratios. Military historians at the Air Force History Office recognize the P-38 Lightning as representing a crucial turning point in fighter aircraft development. Dr. William Head, chief of the Air Force History Office, writes in American Military Aviation, the first century, the P-38 was the first American fighter to prove that technological sophistication and operational complexity could translate to combat superiority. It established design principles that remain relevant in modern air superiority fighters. The technological innovations became standard. Air Force Museum educational documentation shows several P-38 design elements directly influenced post-war fighter development. Twin-engine fighter concepts. While the P-38 was the last successful American twin-engine fighter, its performance validation influenced modern designs. The F-14 Tomcat, F-15 Eagle, and F-22 Raptor all use twin-engine configurations for reliability and power, concepts the P-38 proved in combat. Turbocharger technology. The P-38's General Electric turbo superchargers established high-altitude combat capability as essential. Modern fighter engines trace lineage directly to this innovation. Concentrated nose armament. The P-38's devastating firepower from centerline-mounted guns validated the concept. Official Air Force weapons development histories note that jet fighters adopted nose-mounted cannon configurations based on P-38 combat effectiveness data. Extended range operations. The Lightning proved that range equals strategic flexibility. Air Force doctrine publications cite P-38 Pacific operations as validating the importance of combat radius in theater air superiority. The Air University's professional military education curriculum uses the P-38 as a case study in the relationship between technology and tactics. Course materials note, the Lightning demonstrated that technical advantages, when properly exploited through training and tactics, can overcome numerical inferiority and initial skepticism. Naval War College strategy courses include P-38 operations in their lessons from air superiority curriculum. The teaching point, technological innovation, must be paired with pilot training and tactical doctrine to achieve effectiveness. P-38 success came not just from the aircraft's capabilities, but from developing tactics that maximize those capabilities. The broader World War II impact is clear in strategic bombing survey assessments. The U.S. Strategic Bombing Survey, completed in 1946, concluded the P-38's extended range capability was instrumental in achieving air superiority over Germany in 1944. Without fighters capable of escorting bombers to distant targets, the strategic bombing campaign would have required significant modification. The operational record tells the story. 9,923 P-38s built, 10,000 plus enemy aircraft destroyed, flown by 7 of the top 10 American aces, used in every theater of war. And that nickname, Gabelschwanzteufel, remains one of the few German designations that American pilots wore with pride. When your enemy names your weapon after the devil, you know you've achieved something extraordinary. The story of the fork-tailed devil offers lessons that resonate through military history. The German pilots who called it der Gabelschwanzteufel weren't being poetic. They were being honest. The P-38 Lightning terrified them because it represented something they couldn't counter: American technological innovation paired with industrial might and pilot skill. Think about what the official records prove. An aircraft initially considered too complex and expensive became the most feared fighter in 2 theaters of war. A design that critics wanted canceled achieved a 5-to-1 kill ratio in the Pacific and forced the Luftwaffe to change their entire tactical doctrine in Europe. A plane that suffered early training accidents produced 7 of the top 10 American aces and shot down more enemy aircraft than any other American fighter. The lesson documented by Air Force historians is clear. Never underestimate American ingenuity when challenged. When the Luftwaffe dominated European skies, American engineers built something that could beat them at 30,000 feet. When the Pacific demanded impossible range, Lockheed delivered a fighter that could fly 2,600 miles. When the enemy adapted, American pilots developed tactics that maintained superiority. That's the American military tradition. Meet the challenge, exceed expectations, and dominate the battlefield through innovation and determination. The fork-tailed devil earned its name through 10,000-plus verified kills, through striking fear into veteran enemy pilots, and through proving that technological sophistication wins wars. If you found this deep dive into verified military history fascinating, hit subscribe. This channel is dedicated to bringing you meticulously researched stories of American military excellence, not myths or propaganda. but documented history backed by official records, combat reports, and historical archives. Next video: why German tank commanders called the American M18 Hellcat the fastest death in Europe. Another story of American engineering genius that terrified the Wehrmacht. Drop a comment. What lesser-known World War II aircraft do you want to see covered? I'll research official records and bring you the verified history. The P-38 Lightning, the fork-tailed devil. Documented proof: never underestimate American innovation.